Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be going through my February TBR as chosen by my TBR game. I have just ordered lunch as well and it's due to arrive in half an hour, so let's see if I can film this before it gets here. So at the time that I'm filming this, there's only one book from my January TBR that I still need to start, and that is The Blade Itself by Jo Abercrombie, which I'm reading for the Catch Up Book Club hosted by Becca from Becca and the Books, and I think the live show isn't until the end of February, so my plan is to try and start this within the next few days and then finish it at the start of February, but I've heard that this is quite slow paced, so we'll see if that actually happens. The only other readathon that I am taking part in February is Romcomathon, which is hosted by Michelle, Aoife and Brianna. I'll leave their channels linked in the description just in case you want to find out more, but it's basically a readathon that's all to do with reading romance. So let's hope that I can get some good romance books on this TBR. If this is the first time that you're watching my TBR game, then I will leave the playlist linked in the description, but the rules are pretty easy to pick up anyway. I basically move around the board and pick books as I go based on the genres or the prompts. But yeah, I think that's everything that I needed to say in this intro. Let's go with rule number one. Okay, so rule number one is a 2-1-2, which is thriller. So role number one landed on thriller, and for this I'm going to be reading Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. So I did read the first chapter of this book last year when I did a try a chapter challenge. I'll see if I can find that video and leave it linked in the description and in the cards, but I really enjoyed the first chapter of this, not as much as some of the other books that I tried for that video, but I keep thinking about it and I do really want to try some of Karen Slaughter's books because I know that she's a really popular author and I have a feeling I'm going to really like her books. I have heard that her books are usually quite graphic and violent, so that's the only thing that makes me feel a little bit nervous. But the plot for this one, from what I can remember, we're following this main character who's I think in her 30s, but when she was a kid her sister went missing or was murdered. It was something like that, but I can remember that the last chapter ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. Some shocking things happened and I'm excited to finally continue reading this. I am going to reread the first chapter when I get around to it, but I'm hoping that this is going to be really twisty and dark and I'm hoping that I'm going to love it. Role number two is a 1, which is romance. Role number 2 landed on romance, and for this I'm going to be reading On Rotation by Shirlene Abuobi, I think is how you pronounce the author's name, but the Goodreads synopsis for this is what sold it to me because it says that it's recommended for fans of Grey's Anatomy and 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, and I loved 7 Days in June. It was one of my favourite romance books of last year, and I also really used to love Grey's Anatomy. I haven't watched the last few series because I found that it was just going on and there was no end in sight, and I have commitment issues when it comes to TV shows, but I did really enjoy it back when I was at uni, so I like the idea of reading a romance that's based on people who work within the medical field. I think that this follows a med student and her life seems to be going well, however things start to fall apart. I think she fails one of her medical school exams and she's not really looking for a romance. However, this guy comes along that she thinks actually might be the first person to see her for who she really is. I haven't heard many people talking about this, but I have heard that the romantic elements are kind of secondary to the character's own personal journey. So I'm excited for this one. I feel like it's one that I'm going to really enjoy. Role number 3 is a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is challenge, and the challenge is to continue a series, if that's even gonna focus. There we go. Role number 3 landed on continue a series, and for this I'm gonna be reading The Golden Fool by Robin Hobb, which is book 2 in the Tawny Man trilogy and book 8 in the Realm of the Outlandings, I think. Is it book 8? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is, which feels so surreal. I can't believe I'm already on book 8 of this series, but this is, yeah, the second book in the Tawny Man trilogy. I read the first book in January and really enjoyed it. I think it's my favourite book of the Fitz books so far. I still prefer the Life Ship trilogy because I'm just not the biggest fan of Fitz. I find him quite frustrating, even though that's the point. I think he's deliberately written to be frustrating. However, what I did find with Fool's Errand, which is the first book in this trilogy, I found that I was appreciating his character development a lot more than I did in the first trilogy. I think that Robin Hobb is an incredible character writer, and so even though these books are so slow and they do take me a while to read, I'm super invested now in this world and in these characters, and I'm interested to see what direction the rest of this trilogy goes in, because I have theories. I actually have quite a few theories, but I haven't read the back of this deliberately because I've done that in the past and found that the blurbs are quite spoilery. I think because they're so character driven, it's hard to really explain the plot because the plot doesn't really kick in until halfway through the book. So yeah, I'm hoping to get to this in February, and I am going to be reading the audiobook because that's how I've been reading this series, and I do really like the audiobooks. Okay, so roll number 4, I think this is a 1, which is romance. Roll number 4 landed on romance again, which is fine by me because it means that I can hopefully fit some of these into readathon prompts as well. But the book that I'm going to choose in particular for this is Twisted Love by Anna Huang. I believe this follows a woman called Ava who falls for her brother's best friend, and it's opposites attract, a hate to love situation. I don't actually know what the plot is for this. I'm sure I heard it at some point. This is one of those books that got popular because of TikTok, and whenever I hear people talk about it, I hear them talk about the tropes that it has rather than the actual plot, but just the vibe of what people have described, I think it is a book that I'm gonna like. I am a little nervous because most of the reviews that I've seen or heard for this book have either been 1-star reviews or 5-star reviews. I feel like people are at opposite ends of the scale. People either seem to love it or hate it, and I'm hoping that I don't hate it. Roll number 5 is a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is thriller. Roll number 5 landed on thriller, and for this I'm going with The Whisper Man by Alex North. This is an older thriller now. I think it came out in 2019, but I can remember in 2020 when I first started getting back into reading and when I was first watching BookTube, this book had quite a lot of hype and a lot of people were talking about it, and I think that's when I bought it. I got it on Kindle for 99p. We know I have a problem where I can't resist a 99p Kindle deal. The plot does sound like something that I would enjoy though. So this follows a guy who has a young son and they move to this town which has a bit of a dark history. Around 20 years ago, there was this serial killer that terrorized this town, and this killer was called the Whisper Man. This guy was actually found and he was sent to prison. However, in the present day, a boy has just gone missing, and I think there's similarities to what happened in the past. Love a good crime thriller, and especially a crime thriller that follows an investigation of sorts, and I think we do get the perspectives of the investigating officers who are investigating this case, so I'm hoping that this is going to be a win. Roll number 6 is a 2. 1, 2, which is other. Roll number 6 landed on other, which means I need to read a book that's not a thriller, a fantasy, or a romance. So I'm going with non-fiction, which might sound surprising because I don't read a lot of non-fiction. However, I think it might actually be quite easy to guess what book I'm putting on my TBR, considering that I didn't get around to it in January. But the book I'm going to be reading is Spare, which is Prince Harry's his biography. I have seen so many people reading this recently, and I have the audiobook, which I know is narrated by Prince Harry, so I'm probably going to listen to this on and off throughout February. I don't think I want to binge it or anything like that. I have heard some people say that this actually focuses a lot on his childhood, which intrigues me even more. I think I'm actually more interested in what happened back then rather than what's going on in the present day. I'm talking like this is fiction. I feel like everyone has been reading this recently. Well, not everyone, but I feel like a lot of people have been reading this recently. Really excited to finally be reading this. Is this going to be the final roll? It's not. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is another challenge. And the challenge is to read a new release that was published in the last 2 years. Roll number 7 landed on challenge, and the challenge was to read a new release. So 3 guesses which book I'm picking for this prompt, because I have been desperate to read Hellbent ever since it came out. This is the 2nd book in the Alex Stern series and the sequel to Ninth House. I am currently rereading Ninth House because I read it the first time like 2 years ago, and I'd pretty much forgotten most of the world building and the magic system, so I'm hoping that I can finish my reread by the end of this week or possibly next week, and then I can dive into Hellbent in February. For anyone who doesn't know, this series follows a girl called Alex Stern who's accepted into Yale University. However, the condition of her acceptance is that she has to work for this secret society that monitors the other secret societies at Yale, and they use different types of magic. There are all of these rituals that are involved, but Alex has a very unique ability because she can see ghosts. This is one of my most anticipated releases for 2023, and I haven't actually heard anyone talking about this. Yeah, I don't know whether it's because I've been actively avoiding any spoilers or anything to do with this book because I want to go into it not knowing anything, but I haven't heard anything bad so far. So yeah, really excited to continue this series, especially because I gave Ninth House 5 stars the first time I read it, so I'm hoping that this is going to be another 5 stars. Okay, so hopefully this is going to be the final roll, and it is 1, 2, 5. So that does bring me to the end of the TBR, and I am a little bit nervous about this TBR because February is obviously the shortest month of the year, and I have the longest TBR that I think I've ever got from my TBR game. Usually I get around 4 to 6 books, which means that I can mood read if I want to, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that in February because yeah, there's 7 books from my TBR game at TBR, and then I also have a book that I'm rolling over from January, so wish me luck. Let me know in the comments what books are on your February TBR, and let me know if you've read any of the books that I talked about in this video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, but otherwise I will see you next time. Bye!